Greetings, TVR2A. This is your PC video walkthrough Pro Tools doing the Pro Tools Lab number 3, which is called Station ID with a Music Bed. This will involve you recording your voice into Pro Tools using either a built-in mic or preferably some sort of USB microphone that you plug in. Along with that, you'll be importing a music track, which will serve as a music bed, which you will raise and lower based on some automation. So here's our assignment, Pro Tools Lab 3 Station ID with Music Bed. We'll click on it, and the first thing you'll need to do is notice that there is a set of instructions that you can print this out. You will need this. This is the one that says for PC, because on it is the script that you'll be using. So make sure you have that readily available either on a screen or a hard copy. And there is a script with a sentence there that you'll be reading. All right, but you'll also need to grab the audio, and it's going to be the zip file right here. So you'll go ahead and click on the download. It will go into your downloads folder. Here's mine going into my Chrome browser download. All right, now that's finished. You can click on your download. You can find it here, and you can click on the folder. You'll see it's called Mambo Music Bed MP3. Yours won't have the number 1. It is a zip file, so you will need to double click on it. It will unzip and it will turn into an MP3 file called Mambo. What I would like to do is I will grab that and I'm going to drag it into my documents folder. And then from there, I'm going to grab that Mambo and I'm going to put it into our folder we've made for the class, which is TVR2A Sessions, so I can remember where it is. Remember, that's the same folder where we started with the music bed import. We'll have a new session here, and then we'll import that file into it. Okay, but that's done. Let's go ahead and launch Pro Tools. All right, as that's launching, I will mention a few things in terms of when you're recording audio into a computer. You need to make sure that your speakers are not playing. So ideally, you're using a pair of headphones so that your computer speakers do not play back. Anytime you have a microphone and then you have speakers at the same time, if you go to record into that mic, high chance that you're going to create a feedback loop and you're going to hear a squeak in your computer, and that's no good. So I like to suggest using a pair of headphones so that your speakers will turn off, and then use a USB microphone. I'm using the Yeti. This is by Blue, and it can serve as the microphone. It also has a headphone output on it as well. But what you don't want to do is try to use your built-in microphone and your built-in speakers at the same time. Those will squeal. And you don't want to try to use a USB mic, again, with your speakers turned on. So make sure those speakers are off, and the only thing on is the microphone so that you don't have a feedback loop. Here's Pro Tools. We'll go ahead and click on New. We're going to give this a usable name. Here are my instructions. It says that it's going to be called my first initial, my last name, and the letter ID. So that's first initial, last name, and then ID for Station ID. Here where it says where is it going to be stored, remember, since last time I already set this up, I don't really need to make a change here. You will see it is going into my documents folder, and it's going into the TVR2A Sessions folder, and that's the one that I had just showed you where we place that audio. So I don't need to click and change. If for some reason yours is not showing the documents, you can click the drop down and you can go find it again. But local storage needs to be clicked for the radio button. Here for this session configuration, we're going to use Wave, we're going to use 44.1, we're going to use a bit depth of 16, and then I/O settings, I'm going to click in here and choose stereo mix. Check mark the word interleave right here, and then you're ready to click create. All right, once it creates, it will bring you to a blank Pro Tools session. If for some reason you are not seeing this window, this is my edit window. You can always do the control key, CTRL, and then the plus key, or also known as the equals key, right next to the backspace. And that is a toggle that will go back and forth between your edit view and your mixer view. But it also will bring the windows to the front in case they have been shut off. Also, if you got an extra track, a click track, I showed you last time how you can just right click on that click track name and choose delete. Mine didn't come up with any kind of problem, so it's a completely blank slate. All right, you can resize your windows if you need. You want to get a little more real estate or a little bit less. I can go ahead and even shrink this so I can get it to fit right in the window here. All right, so I just resized it. So now here is my space, my total workspace right here. And you can see my menus at the top. All right, so step 4 says verify playback engine, and you want to make sure you do this before you do any kind of recording. I'm going to go to the setup menu and I'm going to choose playback engine. In here, this is where it's going to vary from mine to yours. Because I'm using my microphone, which is a Yeti, the input device needs to say that microphone Yeti. Now yours may be different. If you're using the built-in off of the computer, you probably are using a Realtek. Or if you have another Logitech device or something, maybe that's showing up. But for me, I'm using the Yeti USB microphones as my input device, so I have a check mark for this. Now for the output, because I need to make sure the audio is going into this video, I have to set it up so that it goes through the Realtek audio. I could also have the option of sending it back to my Yeti because it does have a headphone jack on it, but if I do that, you won't hear the audio. So for the output, just make sure it says your speakers or your headphones, and make sure you have the check mark there as well. And then I can click OK. All right, now I'm going to import that audio that we downloaded from the very beginning called Mumble. So let's go up to the File menu, and let's go to the Import Audio option. Here I'm going to maneuver myself to my documents, which is, here's my name, double click, here's my documents, and then here's that folder that we've been using, TVR2A sessions, double click. And inside there I have the file, and that's the one I need, the one that says Mumble, and that's an MP3 file. And the way it works is I'm going to single click on it. You'll see it places it here in the clip pane. And then below, you'll see the word convert files. Now, it's choosing convert because it's an MP3 format, which is not natively recognized by Pro Tools. So Pro Tools needs either a WAV file or an AIF file. So what Pro Tools is going to do is it's going to convert that file into the WAV format. Otherwise, you would see the word copy here. All right. So because it's MP3, all you see is the word convert. So choose convert files. You see it now places it here in the conversion method. And then you're ready to go ahead and click done. Again, so Mumble, single click, it puts it here. And then convert files, single click, that puts it here. And now click done, and that will bring it into the session. All right. Secondary window is asking me where are you actually wanting that file to go. And what you always want to do is get into the habit of choose use current folder here on the left hand side. Click use current folder. It will now bring me to the audio import options. And I want to make sure I'm using destination new track, location, session start. So it goes to the beginning and it creates a track for me. Choose OK. Now I see the track. It is a little small, so I'm going to go ahead and expand it with my resizer here. Just clicking on the bottom of the track and dragging it downward. You can also see I'm a little bit zoomed out here. It's 40 seconds, 50 seconds. And I'll go ahead and hit the plus lower right-hand corner just so I zoom in a little bit better. So I'm looking at seconds go by. All right, that will take us to step 12. And it says to play the audio file, you can use transport controls or by pressing the space bar. So if I go ahead and do an enter key will go back to the very beginning, and I hit the space bar, I should hear this playing through. Now, if I don't hear it, I would go ahead and go to my mixer view, which is going to be Control and equals, and just verify that I see an available output where it says speakers 1-2. Make sure that you have something there and that it's not blurred out. You can always click in here and choose speakers, or yours might say headphones. I don't know what yours says, but it needs to say something, and it has to be normal. It cannot look like it's italicized or that it's blurred out or it says no output. All right, so it's working again. If I hit the space bar, yeah, I see activity here, and I can clearly hear that it's playing. Again, that's the mixer view right there. Okay, that's the mixer view. This back here is the edit view. The way I got there, again, I'm using Control key and the equals key, same time. All right, so I played it. It's working. We could go ahead and go to step 13 that says you're now going to use this music bed to create a music bed that will be behind your voice. So now we need to figure out how to record our voice into it. So this is where it gets tricky. Now remember, if you're having any issues getting your voice into Pro Tools, chances are you need to go to that setup menu and you need to hit Playback Engine, and you need to verify that you see your input device as being something that actually is part of your setup. Again, I'm using the Yeti. So if you're using some other mic, it's going to be here. You just drop down and find it. All right, so first step, I'm going to turn off this music track, and I'm going to do that by muting it. That's with letter M, and it's a single click. Now the music won't play. So it's like I'm temporarily disabling that music track. I don't want to hear the music while I speak. Also, I don't want the music to play onto the microphone and leak in, so I got to make sure it's turned off. So mute the music. Step 14.1, add one new mono audio track and name it VO. Okay, so let's go ahead and figure out how to add new tracks. You can go to the track menu and you'll see it does say new, but you can also use the shortcut Control Shift letter N, and that's what I'm going to do. Control Shift letter N for new, and it brings up the new tracks dialog box. What you're doing is creating one new mono audio track in TIX, and it's going to be called VO. So I'm going to highlight audio and just do VO. That's for voiceover, by the way. Again, yours looks exactly like mine. Create one new mono audio track in TIX named VO. Click create. You're going to see that track. Again, these are too small, so I got to click and drag these so that they're nice and big. Now I have a new audio track here. I now need to set up the input for that audio track. Okay, again, I'm going to do Control equals, and I need to check the input. Now here it says I/O, and this is my VO track here. And I have to click in here and just double check that it says interface and it says microphone 1. So again, interface, microphone 1. Yours may or may not be exactly like mine. Yours might say something different, but you are going to have to click interface microphone something 1. Okay? So mine is actually set up for me. I didn't have to change it. The output are the speakers, but that doesn't really matter at this point. But I do need to record enable the track, which is this little button right here. I'm going to single click, and it's going to start flashing red. Think of this as being record activated or record ready. Also, my voice might start echoing simply because I have a microphone, but I also have the video playing back through a speaker. So I tried to turn it down just in case you hear something strange. Don't be alarmed. And now I need to go ahead and find that script. Okay, I have it here in front of me. It says you're listening to Lancer Radio, streaming live from the campus. So it's that sentence. And I'm going to go ahead and get ready to record it into Pro Tools. So I'm going to jump back onto my edit window. I'm going to hit the Enter key. Enter key goes back to the beginning. It's flashing red. I'm ready to record. Now you have a transport controller, which is right up here. So you can click the red and then click the green. That will work. Or you can do a shortcut, which is the function key of F12. So what you do is hold down the function key, which is Fn, hold that, and then also press F12 at the same time. It will begin recording. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to record it in, and I'm going to show you how that works. So here we go. Function F12. You're listening to Lancer Radio, streaming live from the campus of Pasadena City College, a world-class community college for the 21st century. And I use spacebar to stop. So you heard what I did. I recorded into the mic. I read that sentence, and I hit the spacebar when I was finished. So spacebar has two functions. It's a shortcut to play, but it's also a shortcut to stop. And then the enter key, and if I accidentally say the return key, you just have to remember I'm coming from a Mac, so it's supposed to be enter key for PC, but I'm sure I'll make a few mistakes. Now it says, am I happy? Step 15. If I'm happy with it, I can now disable the record button on the voiceover track. Okay, disable just means click that red dot so it's no longer flashing. And I could go ahead and give this a listen. So I'll go ahead and hit the space bar and just listen to what I did. Here it comes. You're listening to Lancer Radio, streaming live from the campus of Pasadena City College, a world-class community college for the 21st century. Nice. All right, so I'm happy with it. It's ready to go, and now I'm going to do some very easy edits, and I'm going to show you how to turn the music up and down, because the music's going to be a little bit too loud. All right, so in here it says I'm going to go into something called slip mode. So upper left-hand corner, I have my 4 edit modes: shuffle, slip, spot, and grid. I want to use slip, which is similar to like a freehand edit. Now the tools I'm going to use that smart tool. Now the smart tool are these 3 tools all combined as one. Those tools are the trim tool, the selector tool, and the grabber tool. The way I select all 3 of them at once is right above those 3 tools. There's a little bracket. You can single click. And now the mouse will change function based on the height and location of the cursor. So you go to the edge, it turns into a trimmer. If you go down, it turns into grabber. If it goes up, it turns into selector. That's called the smart tool. So it's 3 tools in one. What I'm going to first do is go ahead and position this so that my voice begins at about the 5-second mark. All right, so up here I see 5 seconds. You can see 5 seconds here. But I can see that I began a little closer. So I'm going to drag this to about here. That's 5 seconds. Now, some very easy edits that you can also do along with me is I want to go ahead and trim off this little beginning flat line. I'm going to go over to the edge, and remember that cursor, as long as you stay in the middle, it's going to turn into the trimmer tool. And I'm going to single click and hold the mouse down. So I'm clicking and holding, and then I'm going to kind of drag my mouse over to the right, and then I'm going to stop right there. So I got rid of all of that dead space. While I'm at it, I can also do it at the ends. You see I have a few seconds here, so I'll go to the right side. And now I have a nice piece of audio right here. And I've positioned it at about 5 seconds. Now remember, the timeline that you're looking at the top may show different things. In this case, it shows something called measures, which is a musical term, 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are not seconds, those are measures. But in between, it says :00, :01. That is minutes and seconds. That's what I want. And then even below that, it says 100,000, 200,000. And those are samples, and we're not concerned with that yet. So it doesn't matter what it shows, but make sure that you see the minutes and seconds. If you don't see minutes and seconds, you're going to click this little tiny square here on the left. And make sure you have a check mark on minutes and seconds. I'll go ahead and turn off samples, and I'll turn off bars and beats. So for now, all I'm looking at are minutes and seconds at the top, just like my counter shows me here. So minutes and seconds. 5 seconds, which is here. I'm going to even drag this with my grabber. That's the hand. Hand tool is grabber tool. Go down towards the bottom of the clip. It will automatically turn in, and I can just click and move it with my mouse. All right, so I have it coming in at 5 seconds, and then it's out at about 13.5 seconds or so. However, you'll notice if I back up and single click and play this and activate the music again, you see the music is too strong. It's overpowering the track. And so I have a new technique for you to learn, which is going to be some automation. Automation is just an automatic way for the volume of the music to either be lowered or raised based on what I want. And we're going to drop it down by about minus 12 dB. All right, so we're at step 16. Station ID will begin with music at full volume. And then after 5 seconds, we'll lower it so that the voice can enter and be up front. Let's go ahead and do that. All right, so here we go, folks. Lower left-hand corner of the music track, you will see this little tiny square that has like a slanted line on it. It says it's show and hide automation lane, and what we want to do is just do a single click. And you can also enlarge that, which I will do, and that will show me a volume line. In this case, it's blue. Sometimes it's black. But it's very long, and it goes all the way through. That's the volume of that track. So the higher up that line is, the louder it is. And what I want to do is draw a little diagonal fade right about here so that it drops down in time for my voice to come in. So I'm going to come right about here, and I'm going to put in a little tiny data point. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to hold the control key, and then we're going to single click with the mouse right at that location. And I'm going to go a little bit to the right, maybe about 1/4 of an inch. Again, I'm holding control key, and I'm going to click one more time. So I have 2 little white dots. Think of those as keyframes or automation data points, and you can grab and manipulate those points anywhere you want. I'm going to grab the second one, and I'm going to draw it down by about minus 12. Now, you don't have to be exact here. It could be close. If you want to be exact, you actually have to hold the control key while you drag this up and down, and that'll give you that exact 12 that I'm looking for. Now, let's go ahead and hear what I've done and see if my voice is a little bit stronger. I'm going to hit Enter key and spacebar. You're listening to Lancer Radio, streaming live from the campus of Pasadena City College, a world-class community college for the 21st century. You heard how that dropped the volume down pretty naturally, so the voice could come out a little bit louder. That's good. Now, the second part is we need to bring the music back up. So we're going to bring the music back to that same level, which is 0 dB here. This is minus 12. And so it's really just the same thing. It's holding control key. You're going to click once here. You're going to move a little to the right, about 1/4 of an inch, and you'll click a second dot in. Now, the reason we click 2 is because that first dot is going to serve as an anchor point, so it won't move this portion. So it's an anchor. But I'm going to grab that second one, and I'm going to pull it up to 0. And again, if you want to be exact, you hold that control key, drag it, and it'll just move by increments of decimal point. And now it looks nice like this. And then we give that a listen. I'll go ahead and click right here to listen. Let's hear how it increases. Nice. I'm going to let that music go for about, let's see, in the instructions, let it play for 5 seconds and then do a nice smooth fade out all the way to silence. Let's go ahead and do that. So by the time we get to 30 seconds, it's done. 30 seconds or so. All right, so I can see here I'm at 15 seconds. So 15 plus 5 would put me here. So here's my 20-second mark. And then I want that to basically play out until the 30-second mark. Now that's a little bit too long for this particular station ID. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and cut this down to, instead of being the 30-second station ID, is I'll go to make it be about a 25-second station ID. So I'm going to go ahead and let this play for 5 seconds, and then I'm going to start to fade this down so that by the time we get to 25, it's silent. Okay, and that just saves a little bit of time. Again, Control key, click. Now this time I'm going to go way across to my 25-second mark. I'm going to grab that second dot, and this time I'm pulling it all the way until I can't go down any further, all the way down to the very bottom of that track. And now it sounds like this. Nice, all the way to nothing. How great is that? All right, so that is great. Now, a couple good habits to get into is, because this is faded out all the way at this point, there's really no need to have all of that music there, is there? So it kind of just gets in the way. So I'll go ahead and get into the habit of getting rid of anything to the right that's already been faded out. So I'm going to single click with that cursor, and I'm going to do the letter B, which is break. Now notice, or I'm going to notice, that I tried to do a shortcut and it's not working. And that's because right here my shortcut button has been deactivated. So you see the upper right hand corner, it says AZ. That needs to be yellow. Just single click it. And now all these little shortcuts that I'm giving you will work. So letter B, that creates a break right at that moment. Then I can click with my grabber on the right hand side, and I can just use backspace, or actually I can use the delete key. Gone. All right, this is looking pretty nice, isn't it? Let's go ahead and do return key. It's starting to take shape. I have my music nice and strong, dips down for the voice. It goes back up nice and strong. It plays for a little while, and then it does a nice smooth fade out all the way to silence. All right, so again, this is a little different than my instructions. My instruction says it should be 30 seconds. Instead, I'm calling an audible and saying it's going to be out at 25 seconds. Listen back to it, make sure you're happy with it, and then you're ready to go ahead and bounce this whole thing out. A bounce just means you're basically exporting it out, or you're rendering it out as a stereo file, something that I can listen to in Canvas. Okay, the steps for that bounce are very specific, so here we go. You're going to go ahead and go into that timer line, the ruler, time ruler, and you're going to draw a selection at that last moment, which is right here. I'm going to click once and hold it, and I'm going to scroll all the way to the left-hand side to the very beginning like this. And what I'm doing is I'm selecting the amount of time that I want to be rendered out or exported out. Also, make sure you don't have anything accidentally muted or record enabled. But that is the first step, is to go ahead and draw the selection of the time. Now, why do we have to do this? Because Pro Tools is notorious for creating long exports if you don't do it this way. So, for example, we deleted some of that audio from the music track because it was too long. If I don't draw the selection and I just tell Pro Tools to bounce, then it will include the stuff that we had cut out, and we'll have a whole bunch of seconds of silence at the end. We don't want any silence on these files. So draw your selection first, and now you're ready to go to File menu. You're going to choose Bounce Mix. So File menu, Bounce Mix. You're going to go ahead and give that the same name. In this case, I'm just going to use G Dunbar ID. I'm going to actually put in GD. I'm going to put in my initials instead, like in my instructions, GD, and I'm going to call it Station ID. So my initials, Station ID. And then here we have a few things we have to change. Starting here, it says file type. We want that to be MP3. Okay, so file type MP3. The mix source. The mix source is whatever my outputs were from the session. So mine are speaker 1 and 2. So I don't have to change that. The file format should say interleaved. The bit depth will be 16-bit. You won't be able to change that. And then the sample rate needs to be 44.1. If it says anything else, just click and change it. Here it says file destination is going into a session folder. Pro Tools is going to create this folder for me. Don't do any typing here, but make sure it says session folder. And then most importantly, lower left-hand corner, choose offline as a check mark. If you accidentally do not click offline, then this next step will take a real-time bounce. So if it's 30 seconds, you're going to sit there for 30 seconds while it renders that file. But we want it offline so it goes very quickly. Let's click bounce. It's going to ask me to give it an MP3 name. I don't really care about this part. And in fact, I will change this constant bit depth so it's not quite as big, down to 160. But we can really ignore anything that happens in this window. All right, this is just the quality of the MP3. Click OK again. You're going to see it just quickly did the export, also known as the bounce. I'm going to leave Pro Tools, so I'm going to go up to File menu, and I'm going to choose Save, which is Control S, just to make sure that it's been saved. And then I'm going to leave Pro Tools with Exit, which is Control Q. Let's go ahead and do all of that. Pro Tools is now closed, and I'm back in my Documents folder, in my TVR2A Sessions folder, and here is G Dunbar ID, so that's the session folder. You're going to open it to double click. And now in here, you're going to find a new folder called Bounce Files. Now, what you're looking at inside of this session folder is a Pro Tools file, which is this one right here, and that has the extension of .ptx. That doesn't contain any audio, so you don't ever want to send that to me. The audio files folder is the folder that contains all of the audio that we've been editing and working with. That always has to be right next to the session file. The session backups is a file that Pro Tools is creating in real time. Every few minutes, it's making a backup just in case. But what I want to do is open up the Bounce Files folder, and there is that MP3 that I did the bounce right there. That's the one that I upload into Canvas. Now, I would also check this, and I would play it to make sure that's the correct file and that you're happy with it. Make sure something weird didn't happen when you did the bounce. So you should hear the music, and you should hear the ID. Now, I'll go ahead and try to play it just for educational purposes. I'm not 100% sure this is going to play and come through the video, but let's see what happens when I double click it. You're listening to Nicer Radio, streaming and it worked. All right, so again, that's the MP3. That's what you're going to upload onto Canvas. So make sure you know where that is, and then you can grab it. Now let's go ahead and jump back onto the assignment. We're going to scroll down here, and you're going to see that there's now a set of questions that you need to answer right here. And I'll do this on most of the labs moving forward. The tricky thing with Canvas is you need to answer those as a comment. Don't try to answer them as a text entry, because you're including an audio track. All right, so let's go ahead and see what happens. By the way, I'm looking at these questions. These may or may not be the actual questions I will ask you, so if you see something different on the screen, don't be too alarmed. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the top, and let's go ahead and do the start assignment. So here's start assignment. Remember to scroll back up to the rocket ship. You want to drag that MP3 right into that rocket ship. You'll see the file is here. And now you're going to click that comment, and this is where you're going to answer all 5 of those questions. If it helps, you can always copy these like this, copy, and then you can put them into that comments window with a paste. And then you can go ahead and answer right into it. Once you answer all 5 of those questions and you have the file attached, that's when you click Submit Assignment. Go ahead and click Submit Assignment. And you'll see the confetti, and you know it was successful. There you go. Congratulations, enjoy, and have fun.